Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense, where the truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. Tonight's show is not about isolated headlines. It is about a pattern that keeps repeating no matter which institution you examine closely. Time after time, leadership collapses under pressure. Accountability evaporates the moment it becomes inconvenient. And once again, the people forced to live with the consequences are never the ones making the decisions. What we are witnessing is not chaos by accident. Fractures are spreading across government, law enforcement, the justice system, and the media narrative itself. Each fracture tells the same story. When power feels pressure, it does not correct course or admit failure. Instead, it deflects responsibility, delays consequences, and disguises failure as virtue. This is how modern politics systems protect themselves rather than solving problems. They may manage optics rather than fixing outcomes. They reframe narratives. And rather than accepting responsibility, they shift blame outward or push it into the future. That's why these stories cannot be treated as isolated events. They connect through behavior, not coincidence. The same refusal to enforce borders show up in funding fights. The same selective accountability appears in courtrooms. The same narratives, protection dominates media coverage. For the public watching from the outside, this creates a growing sense that the system protects itself first. Laws exist, but enforcement depends on status. Rules exist, but consequences depend on ideology. And accountability disappears. Trust erodes. This is the danger point for any republic. When citizens stop believing the law applies equally, legitimacy collapses and cynicism replaces confidence. That is the foundation of tonight's discussion, and we are examining how power behaves when it knows it will not be held accountable, and why that behavior keeps repeating. That is the thought line tonight. But before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream everywhere you can. Every click helps SHR Media family grow and keeps this show rolling. Now, let's get to work. How the hell is everybody doing tonight? Let me get some housekeeping done. Oh, if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button. We are so close to some of our goals. It's getting real close, and we can taste it, and we just need your help just to hit that subscribe button. It's free. It don't cost nothing, but it'll help us forever. Oh, let's see. Where are we at now? Where are we going to start tonight? What happens when even party discipline collapses? What we are watching right now is not policy disagreement or a tactical dispute. It is a governing party losing control of its own members while the country absorbs the consequences. Senate Democrats are openly rebelling against their leadership over a Department of Homeland Security funding package, and that matters far beyond the halls of Congress. DHS is not some abstract bureaucracy. It oversees border security, immigration enforcement, counterterrorism, and internal safety. When the party in power cannot agree on funding, the agency tasked with protecting the homeland, that is not ideological diversity. That is institutional failure. As I get all tongue-tied. It happens. The fight exposes a truth Democrats rarely admit out loud. The coalition agrees on slogans, not structure. They agree on rhetoric, not responsibility. When it comes time to fund enforcement, secure borders, empower agencies to do their job, unity collapse. For years, Democrats have framed any disagreement on DHS funding as extremism. Think about that. Just a difference in opinion is extremism. That's it just blows my mind. Any demand for enforcement was labeled cruelty. Any attempt at border control was treated as moral failure. Now their own caucus can't agree on what DHS should even be allowed to do. A government shutdown is no longer a Republican talking point. It is a self-inflicted wound being debated in public by the party that claims to be the adult in the room. Leadership cannot enforce unity. Committee chairs cannot hold lines. The caucus cannot agree on priorities. And who pays the price? Not the senators, not the staff, not the activists. It is the public. It is the community dealing with border chaos. It is the agents forced to operate under scrutiny and uncertainty. It is the citizens told once again that dysfunction is normal. Here's the irony that should never be ignored. The same people who warn endlessly about threats to democracy cannot manage the basic mechanics of governance. The same party that claims to defend institutions cannot keep its own institution functioning. This is what happens when ideology replaces responsibility. Enforcement becomes optional. Laws become suggestions. And leadership becomes performative. This is not resistance. This is rot. And basically, to boil it down, most of the leadership in the Democrat Party, they understand that right now, a shutdown is not going to do anything. DHS is already funded. It is not going to help them. It's going to hurt them. But they have the fringe groups that are willing to burn down the country, figuratively, and maybe realistically, to try to terrorize the people into voting for them. We see it every day, the terror that they are committing on the American people. And when the police, law enforcement, whether it's DHS, your local, any of them, then it becomes demonized. And you have politicians going out there and outright lying to the people about what's going on. Example, when you have the media and politicians, after a situation has been debunked, still going with the lie, you know you have a problem. And that example is they are trying to push that DHS detained a 5-year-old child. That's the headline they're going with. When in reality, they went to get the father, and the father abandoned his 5-year-old kid. The father abandoned his 5-year-old kid. The law enforcement officers that were there, what are they supposed to do? Turn their back on the kid? No. They secured the kid, helped the kid, and made sure he was taken care of, because his father, sure as anything, did not do anything to help his child. He abandoned his child. But the left wants to give the appearance that they arrested this kid, that they detained this kid, that they're evil, they're vile. Look what they do. They'll go after a 5-year-old. No, they were helping a 5-year-old. And you had Elizabeth Warren today, after everything has been debunked, still running with that lie. And I keep getting, this is what tells me the left knows they're in trouble. When they got to push these lies, they don't have any truth on their side. They keep pushing lies. No, we're peaceful protesting. Bullshit. I want to thank everybody that's in the chat. The only thing I ask is keep it respectful. You can have differing opinions. I don't care. I welcome it. I haven't seen anything yet. I'm just asking everybody that comes in to please be respectful. We try to give full openness to everybody. But if you're going to be disrespectful, we won't put up with that. And the thing is, yes, there is some that are, quote unquote, peacefully protesting. But that's so few and far between anymore. And the left, these politicians will lie because they're the ones that are fueling this. And they can't get it, have the media actually reporting the truth that they're fueling the violence, the riots, the attacks against police. Democrats did not have a problem funding DHS and ICE under Obama, who ICE captured and deported more people than under President Trump. And CNN did ride-alongs and praised, and Democrats praised ICE under President Obama, under Biden. But they hate Trump so bad they will lie to the American people. They will demonize ICE for political points. And it scares me that people actually fall for this. They fall for the emotional heartstring tugging on them. ICE is doing the same job they're doing now as they did then. Just the media is spinning it different. And people are falling for those false narratives because they tug at the heartstrings with false stories of 5-year-olds being detained. There is such a divide in this country and such hatred going on between two factions. I honestly, and I've asked it before, and it's not that I'm want it, not that I'm calling for it, but how are we going to come back together as a country? There's such a divide. And it's just getting worse. I don't know. The lies that they're believing, it just blows my mind. I gotta remember to do that later. And all I ever see from moderating these chat rooms on other shows is the left can't have a conversation. They got to try to insult. They got to try to just be assholes. They can't have a conversation. They can't think that maybe they're wrong. Hey, I've been proved wrong. I admit I've been wrong. But they're so dead set. And when they come into these rooms and all they have is insults, that only reinforces my belief of how gullible the left is, how wrong the left is. They have just emotions. That's it. And it's funny now to hear them talking about constitutionality when just recently, and I still hear it, the Constitution just an old piece of paper. We ought to do away with it. But now they want the Constitution followed when it is being followed. It just amazes me. What even amazed me more were some Democrats actually voted to hold the Clintons in contempt over the Epstein subpoena. Watch the language carefully here, because language is how Washington hides what it refuses to confront. A vote to hold the Clintons in contempt over Epstein-related subpoena should be a defining moment. It should be a point where power finally meets consequences. Instead, it becomes a textbook example of how a political class protects its own while pretending to serve the public interest. But with that, we're just getting started, folks. This is the anatomy of modern politic warfare, and we're only peeling back the first layer. Don't get in any way. We will be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good. as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I'm your host, Jersey Joe. I'm here to make sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right. Before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream everywhere you can. Every click helps SHR Media family grow and keeps the show rolling. Oh, some of these people make me laugh, but all right. And then we're going on about the Clintons. Yes, the vote exists. That is what they want you to focus on. What they do not want you to notice is the lack of urgency, the absence of seriousness, and the deliberate slow walking that follows. The process technically moves forward, but accountability drags itself along at a pace designed to exhaust public attention. This is not accidental. This is how Washington neutralizes consequences without ever having to say no outright. Endless procedures, replacement resolution, endless delays replaces judgment. Bureaucracy becomes a shield, not a tool. The appearance of action is offered as a substitute for the discomfort of real accountability. And this is where the conservatives need to be very clear-eyed. If there were any other family, any other set of names, the tone would be radically different. Subpoenas would be enforced. Deadlines would matter. Contempt would carry weight. But when the Clintons are involved, the system suddenly remembers patience, caution, and restraint. It's not about a personality. It's about precedent. A justice system that signals some people are too connected to comfort is no longer blind. It is selective. And selective justice is not justice at all. Ask yourself this. If accountability truly mattered, would this require public pressure? Would it require alternate media attention? Would it require citizens refusing to look away? No, it would require principle. And principle does not need to be coaxed into action. The problem is not that Congress lacks tools. The problem is that it lacks will. All I'm doing is asking everybody in chat, be respectful. Do not make accusations that you cannot prove. I will not put this channel, I will not put this network at risk. If you cannot act like an adult, you can sit in the chat in a timeout like a little kid. This is how trust erodes. I'm sorry for going on that little rant, but it's we're all adults here. We can act it. Not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small evasions. People notice when rules apply differently. They notice when timelines stretch endlessly. They notice when powerful names are handled with kid gloves. While everyone else is told the law is absolute. A republic cannot survive that imbalance forever. Either accountability applies across the board, or it is eventually applies to no one. And right now, Washington is signaling very clearly which direction it prefers. That is why this vote matters less than what follows it. And so far, what follows looks exactly what America has come to expect: delay, deflection, and a quiet hope that the public moves on. Now, what has gone on is the committee has voted for the Clintons to be held in contempt. Some Democrats crossed the line. But I remember hearing from Democrats recently how they wanted all the information about Epstein. But when it comes to having Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton talk about it under oath, suddenly they don't want transparency with the Epstein. Now, this still has to go to the floor for a full vote. Spamming will not be tolerated in the chat. One warning. Caps are not allowed. All caps are not allowed. Now, yes, presidents have immunity, but for presidential, not for stuff, relationships, sexual relationships, that is not presidential orders. So there is a difference. They don't have 100% immunity. So it's just, if we're going to have rules, let's have it across the board. And to have two people, and we've had political personnel locked up recently for ignoring subpoenas from Congress. And it's not the first time that people have ignored subpoenas and nothing's been done. So it's about time everybody is held to a equal playing field. I don't know. It's just, it's all, I'm glad to see some Democrats jump the cross, but not enough. It should have been a 100% vote, but you have people that have been crying about Epstein that are trying now to protect Democrats. Let's go on to some good news. U.S. murder rate plunges to lowest level in over a century under Trump. Statistics are powerful. Narratives are more powerful, and the political fight over crime has always been about controlling which one of the public is allowed to see. The claim circulating right now is that the U.S. murder rate has fallen to its lowest level, I think not just a century, 125 years. And that is a claim worth examining carefully. Not because numbers do not matter, but because how numbers are treated depending on who benefits from them. If the claim is accurate, it detonates years of progressive talking points about policy, law enforcement, and public safety. For decades, the left has argued that enforcement itself is the problem, that police presence increases violence, that deterrence does not work, that criminal justice outcomes are driven primarily by social forces beyond policy control. Yet the moment crime drops, the tone shifts, the headlines soften, the coverage shrinks, the explanation becomes vague. We are told it is complicated. We are told correlation is unclear. We are told not to draw conclusion. Contrast that with what happens when crime raises. Every spike becomes proof of systematic failure. Every incident is framed as evidence of moral collapse. Every tragedy is blamed on policy choices made by political opponents. Context disappears. Complexity evaporates. Certainty arrives instantly. That asymmetry is not accidental. It reveals the real objective, which is not public safety, but narrative preservation. When outcomes align with conservative arguments about enforcement, deterrence, and order, those outcomes are treated as coincidence. When outcomes align with progressive critique, they are treated as inevitable. Suddenly, I can't speak tonight. Here's what conservatives understand, and Washington elites pretend not to. Public safety is not ideology. Criminal behavior responds to incentives and deterrence. Community response to stability. And law enforcement present changes its outcome whether commentators like it or not. Order is not partisan. The desire to walk down a street without fear does not belong to the right or the left. Parents wanting safe neighborhoods are not engaging in cultural war. They're engaging in survival. And this is where the media failure becomes obvious. Instead of asking what policy produces safe outcomes, coverage focuses on avoiding conclusions altogether. Instead of examining enforcement strategies, the conversation pivots back to abstraction. Instead of learning from success, the system rushes to explain it away. This matters because policy follows narrative. If success is treated as accidental, it will not be repeated. If enforcement is treated as dangerous, regardless of results, it will always be undermined. And if outcomes are dismissed when they contradict ideology, public safety becomes collateral damage. Conservatives are not arguing that statistics alone tell the whole story. We are arguing that the outcomes matter more than excuses. Results matter more than intentions. And safety matters more than slogans. You cannot build trust in institutions that refuse to acknowledge success when it happens. You cannot improve policies if you deny evidence that contradicts your worldview. And you cannot protect communities if you are more concerned with narrative control than with human lives. That is why this debate matters, even if the numbers are contested. The reaction tells you everything you need to know. When crime falls, the story is minimized. When crime rises, the story is weaponized. Public safety is not ideology. Order is not partisan. An outcome matters more than rhetoric. They always have. And when we have politicians that blame an inanimate object and not the person who's committing the acts, they are excusing that person. And it allows other people, encourages other people to do those acts, knowing that we are going to have politicians that are going to excuse their action and give an excuse for their action and blame it on an inanimate object. And that's what they do. They encourage these people knowing that they're not going to get the full blame, that they're going to get excuses from the left. I lived in a state where guns were heavily regulated, where concealed carry was next to none. Those policies did not stop a shooting from happening. It allowed victims to be created. And that's what, when you look at these mass shootings, number one, the top 10 cities are all Democrat-run cities that have the mass shootings. When you look at the mass shootings, 97%, I think it is, 95 or 97, are in gun-free zones. Why? Because that creates victims. gun-free zones create victims. Because criminals who do not follow law, because if they followed law, all we need is murder against the law. And that would solve everything. But that does not stop people from committing murder. You take away guns. We have been killing each other for thousands and thousands of years. We have been killing each other in droves for thousands and thousands of years. You take away people's right to defend their own life. You take away their ability to defend their own lives. And you create victims. And that is what the left wants, is victims. So they can act more law, more control over your life. Then I hear about the left screaming about children. These are the same people that push for abortions. The number one death of children is abortions. They cannot tell the truth when they go to their stats. They got to adjust them and tweak them to fit their narrative. We've lowered illegal immigration in this country, and it's funny how we secured the border, lowering illegal immigration, and fentanyl deaths dropped. Murder rate dropped. Seems like there was a little bit more connection than the left wants to admit. It just I've watched and the funny thing is I'm trying not to pay attention to chat because it's too funny. I hear them making accusations, but they're not backing facts up. Murder rates dropped. Fentanyl's dropped. Top 10 cities for mass shootings are all Democrat controlled. 95% of the mass shootings happen in gun-free zones. They're all facts backed by FBI. If you want to get into it, the left cries about assault weapons. Assault weapons commit maybe 100 killings a year. 100 or less. The numbers are not backing your rhetoric. Blacks are not being hunted by cops. In fact, more whites are killed by cops than blacks. So facts are facts, and if you don't like it, that's your problem. So remember, we got one more segment to go. This is the anatomy of modern politic warfare, and we're only peeling back the first layer. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I'm your host, Jersey Joe. I'm here to make sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right. Before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share the stream everywhere you can. Every click helps SHR Media family grow and keeps this show rolling. Oh, let's see. Where do we go from here? Trump's approval among Hispanics surges in recent polling. This is the data point no one wants to talk about because it shatters a political assumption that has been treated as unchallengeable for decades. Movement and approval among Hispanic voters directly challenges the narrative that has been sold as settled science. The political class insisted demographics were destiny. They claimed voting blocks were permanent. They believed loyalty could be assumed rather than earned. And for years, they acted as if outcomes did not matter as long as the rhetoric was correct. That assumption is no longer cracking, and it is cracking loudly. For too long, Hispanic voters were spoken about, not spoken to, reduced to statistics, treated as monolithic, used as props in policy debates rather than addressed as families, workers, parents, business owners, and citizens with real priorities. Conservatives understand something the political left refuses to accept. People vote their lived reality. They responded to results, not lectures. They respond to safety in their neighborhoods. They respond to economic stability that lets them plan for the future. They respond when the border is controlled, when jobs exist, when the rule of law is enforced fairly, when votes are treated as Americans first instead of demographic inventory. Political loyalty becomes fluid. And that terrifies the political class because it means messaging is not enough anymore. Performance matters. Buddy, stammering and stuttering. Shit happens. This is why the shift, whether temporary or sustained, matters far beyond one poll. It signals a collapse in the left's demographic entitlement mindset. The idea that certain voters belong to a party by default is being rejected in real time. The reaction tells the story. Media outlets rush to explain it away. Analysts search for excuses. Polls are questioned, not because polling is unreliable, but because the results are inconvenient. Suddenly, we are told not to overreact, not to draw a conclusion, not to trust the data. But when polls confirming left-wing assumptions, skepticism vanishes instantly. Then it is destiny. Then it is demographic inevitability. Then it is proof of moral superiority. That double standard is the giveaway. What is happening here is not a sudden ideological conversion. It is a recalibration based on outcomes. Border chaos affects Hispanic communities directly. Crime does not respect identity politics. Inflation hits working families first. Culture. I'm trying to think where my thoughts go in there. I mean, and when leaders speak plainly about work, law, opportunity, and safety, people listen. Not because they agree with every policy detail, but because they recognize respect when they see it. This is not about Republicans winning over voters with slogans. It's about voters walking away from a party that stopped delivering results and insisting on obedience. Calling it a warning shot or call it reality check, either way exposes a truth the political class does not want to confront. No group belongs to any party by default. Loyalty is conditional, and when outcomes improve, assumptions collapse. That is why this data point matters. Not because it guarantees anything, but because it proves something fundamentally. Americans are not owned, and when treated like citizens instead of categories, they vote like it. The left they think they're entitled, and they expect these votes to go a certain way because of the propaganda that they have pushed over the years. But reality is setting in, and they're seeing what's actually going on. They see that these illegals are getting priority, and that everybody else, American citizens, are pushed to a second-class citizenship. People are waking up to that. They're seeing the economy under Democrats compared to Republicans. People are not listening to mainstream media. The lies, the bullshit that they're fed. You can go to the grocery store and see that groceries are cheaper. Your energy costs are cheaper. Your fuel costs are cheaper. Rent is getting cheaper. Housing is getting cheaper. Everything's going in the right way. That even the economists, the experts that flouted, doom and gloom have admitted they are wrong. And everything's going in the right direction. And our economy is looking better. This is the same group of people that are telling you that things are doing very badly right now are the same ones that told you everything was hunky-dory when inflation was like 8, 9 under Biden, telling you that it was a figment of your imagination, everything was more expensive. Now they're trying to tell you that the cheaper prices are a figment of your imagination. They have been lying to you. And people keep buying it. And I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know what it's going to take to wake these people up. It's not a Trump thing. This is not a right, not a left. There is a group of politicians that are acting as royalty, being dishonest, The left's going to say it's the right's going to say it's the left. I'm going to tell you, we got idiots on both sides. I know that. I'm not going to tell you every Republican's perfect. I never have, never will. Right now, the left is on the wrong side of history. More people are waking up to that. And if you start looking at the polls of what's going on, people are walking away from the Democrat Party in droves. In droves. States are flipping from majority Democrat vote to a majority Republican vote. Time and time again, we're seeing that. What it's going to take, that's going to be the $1 million question. If anybody had that answer, well, they'll probably be very rich. Mexican president admits mass migration is a tool. Listen careful to what is being said, and just as importantly, to how quickly it is being dismissed. When mass migration is openly framed as leverage, something fundamentally changes. What has been sold to the American public for years as an unfortunate humanitarian byproduct. Holy shit, I got a new tongue and I'm just breaking it in. Byproduct suddenly reveals itself as a strategic pressure point. Policy failure is no longer accidental. Border chaos becomes a marginal bargaining chip. Sovereignty becomes something to be negotiated rather than defended. This is where conservatives need to slow the conversation down, because the left relies on speed and emotion to avoid uncomfortable implications. The moment you suggest migration can be used strategically, you are accused of paranoia. The moment you point out incentives, you're accused of cruelty. The moment you talk about borders as national assets, you're accused of lacking compassion. But nations act in their interest. They always have. And pretending otherwise does not make it less true. No serious country leaves its borders undefended by accident. No foreign leader speaks casually about population movements without understanding its downstream effect. Migration on a mass scale reshapes labor markets, housing availability, public services, political representation. Let me say that again. Political representation. And if you don't understand what that one's meaning, with the increase of illegal immigrants into the country, flooded into certain areas. When the census was done, it did not care whether you were illegal or legal. You were counted, which increased congressional seats. That is a large incentive. And that's the political representation. And it's a cultural cohesion. Those efforts are predictable. They are measurable. And they're permanent. They're not about compassion versus enforcement. That framing is a trap. It is about control versus surrender. A sovereign nation either controls its border or it reacts to them. There is no middle ground. For years, Americans were told border chaos was the result of complexity, that it was too hard to fix, that enforcement was unrealistic, that deterrence was immoral. But when migration was acknowledged as leverage, complexity disappeared. What remained is intent, and intent matters. If mass migration can be encouraged, tolerated, or weaponized to extract concessions, then border security is not merely a domestic issue. It becomes a national security issue. It becomes foreign policy conducted through demographic pressures instead of diplomacy. Conservatives understand this instinctively because history teaches it clearly. Borders define nations. When borders collapse, states weaken. When states weaken, citizens lose protection. And when protection fails, chaos fills the vacuum. And this is why dismissing these emissions as rhetoric excess is dangerous. Words reveal strategy. Strategy reveals priority. And priority reveals whether leaders respect the sovereignty of their neighbors or view it as negotiable. The American left wants this conversation buried because it exposes the consequences of open border ideology. If migration can be used as leverage, then policy that invite it are not compassionate. They are negligent. This does not mean every migrant is acting strategically. It means systems can be exploited even when individuals are acting out of necessity. Conservatives are capable of holding both truths at once. The political left refuses to because it disrupts the narrative. We're getting to the end of the show, people. I want to thank everybody, whether you're here to argue against or for. I thank everybody for being here. And remember, nothing we cover tonight is random. None of it happened in isolation, and none of it can be dismissed as coincidence. Across every segment tonight, the same behavior surfaced. Leadership fractures under pressure. Enforcement hesitates when politics intervene. Justice blurs when powerful names or approved ideologies appear. Meanwhile, the media reframes events to soften consequences and redirect blame. Through it all, the public is told to accept this breakdown as normal or unavoidable. This is not normal. It is a pattern. A system that refuses accountability steadily loses legitimacy. When leaders avoid consequences, citizens notice. When laws are enforced selectively, trust erodes. And when institutions protect themselves instead of the people they serve, confidence collapse. Borders matter because sovereignty matters. Laws matter because fairness matters. When enforcement becomes optional, safety weakens and stability erodes. The deeper danger is normalized. When Americans grow accustomed to double standards and endless excuses, accountability stops being expected at all. The truth remains simple. Order matters. Accountability matters. Equal application of the law matters. And outcomes matter more than excuses or narratives. When those principles are abandoned, systems fail. When they are defeated, society endures. You want more? We have it here at SHR Media. BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Edge of Liberty with Sackhead Sean every Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Then we have Mission Ready Men, Big E Jackson, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And of course, me, Reaver of Common Sense, Jersey Joe, Mondays and Fridays, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is where we will leave it tonight. This is the Reaver of Common Sense, where truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. Good night, Patriots. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and never let them gaslight you out of reality.